Okay, in this video we're asked to find the inverse of functions. This is problem 13 on test 3 review. So to find inverse of functions, we have a method. First of all, the first step I like to do is put a y value in there. So let's start with 54. Put a y value in here. To find the inverse, what we need to do is, the rule for that is we're going to swap x and y. So this is going to become x instead of y equals 1 minus 3y. And then if we just solve for y, we have the inverse function. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. And we're then going to divide by -3 to get y. Well, that's the inverse function right here. So we can write that as a -1/3 x minus 1/3 equals y, or we want to write it in inverse function notation. The inverse of x equals -1/3 x minus 1/3, or you could leave it as, if you'd like, you can leave it as x plus 1 over -3. Alright, so in 55 we're going to do the same thing. We put the y for f of x. We switch the variable, so now we have the inverse. This is the inverse. It's just not solved for y yet, so that we can write it in inverse notation. But this function is the inverse function because we swapped x and y. So we would add 1 to both sides to get rid of this 1 on this side, and we need to undo this cube. So we're going to need to take the cube root of both sides to get the y by itself. So that would be my inverse function, the cube root of x plus 1. Right, so we're going to continue on with the third problem. So this is the inverse of the second problem. This is the inverse of 54. And then we're going to do 65. 65 takes a little bit more algebra to involved in solving that one. We start the same way though. We put y in for f of x. We swap the x and y, so x equals, and then we're going to have two places where we have y in the right hand side. So this is where the trick is. We've got to solve for y. It's a little trickier than normal. So first we'd multiply through by the denominator, multiply by y plus 2 on both sides. To reduce it out on this side, we'd have 3y equals. Now we're going to multiply this out using a distributive property, so I'm going to get xy plus 2x on this side. Now I need all the y's on the same side together, so I'm going to subtract this xy from both sides to get 2x equals 3y minus xy. I'm doing this so I can isolate the y. We need to get it by itself. We need to factor it out to get it by itself so that we have one instance of y. So now we can just divide by 3 minus x to reduce to y. So y is going to be equal to 2x over 3 minus x. That's going to be our inverse. In this case, f a little -1 of x equals 2x over 3 minus x. That's the inverse for problem number 65.